Hey guys, welcome to another live broadcast of Complete Developer Podcast. You like how I did that? That was good. I just thought of that.
He's testing out new intro material.
Yep. Yeah. I guess my update today, I got to do something really cool. Went to a meeting with the Nashville Technology Council. It was basically a meeting for group leaders in the Nashville area. So since Will and I run Developer Launchpad, which is a meetup group here in town, we got invited. He had work obligations and wasn't able to go. I was able to go as a luncheon. I got free pizza, woot, and got to meet.
Simple things.
Yeah, it is the simple things, I tell you. Got to meet some new people. Saw some people that we already knew. I love going to these kinds of events because it's always fun to run into the people that you know, but that run other user groups, so we don't get to see very often. So that was really cool. Also, finally got my bike fixed. I've been riding it all weekend, including today to the NTC meeting. And I've decided to do something because if you guys saw any of the pictures from Music City Tech, where we were doing the panel, you saw that Will and I kind of have those laptops that you don't really put stickers on. Not really, like they got designs on the front and stuff. So I didn't really want to put stickers on my laptop like I did my old one, but I found a place to put them. And
I was wondering why that was down here.
it is here on my helmet. See, there we go. There's us, JDT, lots of other things. Mostly developer stuff. One brewery. You know, my goal is to
Just
be
one. You don't really want a whole bunch of brewery stickers on your motorcycle helmet anyway, just in case you get pulled over.
Well, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
The goal with that is to be the nerdiest biker out there, and I know a few people that going to give me some competition on the nerdiness, but yeah, that's the goal.
I was going to say, at least you can be a contender.
Yeah.
My update is my family is back from vacation. They were in Holden Beach, North Carolina, all last week, so I was kind of batching it. And it really didn't do a whole lot other than just working on the house and, working on my stuff. I redid the front flower beds and all that kind of stuff. I mean, you came in when all that...
Yeah, it was all torn up.
Yeah, it was all messed up. And that was pretty rough work. A lot of swinging a pickaxe to chop stuff out. So it was pretty nasty. Other than that, the other piece of news I have is that our recording room is changing. We are getting rid of the server rack. I have a NAS that has 4 drives in it, and that's basically replacing the entire server rack. Like I was initially doing server stuff and programming and putting stuff on the box, and I'm not doing that now. And so it was a little ridiculous. So that's going away. I'll probably start disassembling it tonight.
Yeah, it definitely looks different in here, and it's going to look even more different.
Yeah, it's going to be weird.
Yeah, it really is. Oh, so before we move into the podcast update, I forgot to mention the beers that we're drinking. I am drinking Fat Bottom, Ida Golden Ale, and Will is drinking
Peanut Butter Milk Stout from Tailgate. Because that's what was in the fridge.
Yeah, well, we both have memberships?
Yep.
At Tailgate. So
yeah, I
we
need
get
to use mine a
discounts
little
there.
bit more.
You should. It's fun. They have a really good cauliflower pizza crust. It's pretty awesome.
Try that out.
Yeah.
Of course, if you're going to a brewery, you're not doing low carb anyway. But it'd be interesting to see what they do with theirs.
Yeah, it tastes pretty good
compared to mine. So
podcast update. The new water bottles should be here soon. Had some funkiness with ordering them. I think I did it wrong or didn't fill out something, and so I had to redo it. But they're on their way. Also, our Developer Launchpad group is teaming up with Brunch and Code for our social networking mixers. A lot of people that had been coming to our mixers are part of that group that got started, and their group is basically to get together and do what we were doing in the mixer. And so when one of their leaders who had been coming to our stuff said to us, hey, can we work together on this? And Will and I are both like, hey, this is a pain point for us because we're trying to do too much. And so since somebody else is doing the same thing we are, we'll just promote your event and we'll go to it, and then we don't have to worry about organizing it. We can just show up and have fun.
Yeah, we don't have to get there an hour early to reserve seats and that kind of stuff. So it's pretty nice. It makes it where we can go out of town more too, which is a pretty big deal, especially with young children and family outside of town.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So we are doing that, and that's going to be really awesome.
All right, so we got a question. It says, in the last few updates from customers, spreadsheets have changed. They change column headers, etc., and don't understand why we need a specific format. I'm debating designing a data quality service that will take the CSV they give us and find the columns we need by name and extracting the data. My question is, should I default to using SSIS packages, which I've never used, or go with a Python script / C# or other to get the job done? I'm kind of mixed on this. Because C# and Python are pretty good ways to do this. We have stuff where I work that's done in C# for that same purpose. We also have some in Delphi, for that matter. SSIS does integrate very well with SQL Server. I mean, SQL Server integration services, like literally, that's what it does. It does seem to have pretty good error handling capability, and they've tweaked all the stuff that needs to be tweaked to make it fast, so you won't have to fight with that. I would say that this kind of depends on what you've got available on your team. Like if you're the only developer that can maintain the C# and Python scripts, but there's other people there that can deal with SSIS, put that on them. Don't put it on you, because that's going to be kind of a low value activity going forward, so you don't want to grab that one for your own.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've not used SSIS, so I would probably lean more towards the script anyways, just because of that and, my lack of knowledge of that, because I haven't used it before. And I do know how to do scripting, so that's where I would go. And where I personally work, we have more people that would be able to handle the C# scripts than would be able to handle SSIS.
Yeah, although SSIS is not that bad.
No, it's not. It's just what, like you said, what we have, and where I'm at, that's what we have. It would be something for someone else to learn.
Yeah, and I would also add the SSIS stuff. There's going to be a different set of permissions dealing with that, and so you may run into problems with your security group as far as actually being able to get work done with that stuff, and promoting packages and all that. I'm not sure how that whole workflow works. Every place I've done it has been just kind of ad hoc and not really the way you should do it, probably. So that may add an interesting wrinkle. I guess it just depends on your team. And I hate to always use that as the catch-all, but it depends just about always.
Well, that's the thing. It really does. And this is something where you have to look at, all right, you've already said in the question that you've never used SSIS. So more familiar with Python or C# writing scripts. And so it's going to be a learning curve for you, and maybe a learning curve for other members of the team or for people coming on to maintain it. And so you have to look at that and kind of a cost-benefit analysis, really, of, all right, is it worth learning this for this reason?
Yeah. I will tell you one other thing, too. Don't hand parse the CSVs, or whether you do it in Python or C#. Use a library that's intended for that, because there's all these weird little quirks that you'll run into. And that just kind of gets rid of those.
It's interesting. I've actually been looking into CSV libraries, because we're looking at creating a CSV to send out. And so a lot of them do both. So I've been looking into that, and he's right. Go with a library. Because when I first started looking into it, everything I found was how to hand roll it. And I'm like, there has got to be a better way.
Yeah, because okay, for instance, you read in, right? Let's say you got a file, and the typical naive approach is read the whole file in, then split on new lines, and then split on, each line, you split it on commas. Well, there's several things that can happen here. One, you can have blank lines.
Yeah.
You could have carriage return line feeds, or just line feeds at the end of the lines. So you got to be careful with that. The commas, that's you split on that, but you got quotes sometimes or not. You might also need to switch to a different delimiter. You don't want to recompile your program for that. There may be spaces before or after that you want to trim off automatically. There's just a lot of little stuff that you're going to want to deal with. You also have to think about escape sequences. So if there's a comma, you may not want to actually split on that if it's set up to be the escape. So there's a lot of little stuff like that you really need to think about. Also, whether you have column heads or not, whether you have header records and detail records. Mm-hmm. You can see those kind of setups happen too. So there's just a lot of stuff that you really don't want to deal with.
Yeah.
Unless that's really, really what you want to do and you want to make a library, in which case go do it and open source it. And the rest of us will use it because we don't want to write that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So the next question. Do software developers sacrifice their free time to improve their technical skills via learning and side projects after the job?
Yes. Now, do they have to?
No.
No. A lot of jobs, if you're kind of close to the cutting edge, you may not have to to keep up.
Or if you don't want to keep up, if you've got a, and I don't suggest this, but you may have a steady job where you don't have to worry about keeping up.
Yeah, or you're planning on not being in software development that much longer.
Right.
Moving into management.
Or you're getting close to retirement. I know a couple of people where I work that are getting close to retirement, and they're like, it's just not worth my effort to do much more because I'm not going to keep doing this when I retire.
Yeah.
And that makes perfect sense. But if you are anywhere in your career except for moving out of development so either management, retirement, however you're going to get out, if you're not looking to move out of development, yes, you are going to need to maintain and not just maintain your skills, but learn new skills as the new technologies come out. Now, some jobs, yes, they will provide that. I happen to be lucky enough to work for a place that does provide a lot of training. I still do a lot of training on my own.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that I want to learn, specialty things or things that we're doing in the area that I'm in that they're not doing in a lot of other places there that I want to be able to do better, or things that I want to bring in. So I have to go out and learn them on my own. Honestly, I usually devote 1 or 2 nights a week to it.
Yeah, that's about right.
I have 2 nights devoted to the podcast and a night or 2 devoted to that. So
yeah, and I'm about in the same boat, except where I work, we don't have a whole lot of that going on. They're pushing for more of it. Mm-hmm. My main thing with taking I've got a few issues with taking the employer-provided training. The first is they're only going to train you on the stuff that's useful to them. So, like, let's say you're working in a regular job and you're doing CRUD apps with a database. You're not going to learn game development there on their dime. It's not going to happen if that's what you want to do. I also get very, very frustrated with the cadence of training courses.
Yes.
Because I type very fast and I really, like, if I'm training, I'm very, very focused and I'm getting stuff done. I'm not playing on my phone. And so I get very, very annoyed when I have to slow down because other people in the room aren't doing what they're supposed to. It reminds me a little too much of high school for my taste.
So this is funny. I was in training this past week, and it was for certification exam. So it was like pretty intense training. And I sit there through the first couple of days and just kind of, it got monotonous after a while, and it was easy to lose focus because it was kind of slower paced. Then Friday morning, he decides to do a review and go through the first 10 chapters that we'd already covered.
Yeah.
At the pace that I'm used to learning.
Yeah.
Like, I said it to him, and it kind of, I think I offended some people in there when I said it, but I was like, look, I come from med school where you read the chapter and then you come in and the teacher highlights the important bits.
Yeah.
And you're expected to learn the rest on your own. So for me, that fast pace, here's the highly important things you really need to focus on and delve deeper into. That's the kind of training I'm used to.
Right. As opposed to the Ben Stein lecture at the front of the class. The for loop is blah, blah. Like that dog don't hunt for me. So good question. So is machine learning hard or easy to learn for an average software developer? I would say now it's probably a lot easier than it used to be. They've realized that putting master's level math concepts in there to explain, simple things like how simple things work, doesn't really help a whole lot. Like, you need to understand the shape of the algorithm, and then they show you that stuff, and they're starting to kind of clue in on that. So it is a lot better. Now, I do take objection to another term in here, and that is the average software developer. There are not really averages in a population. I'm trying to think of a nice way to put this. I would say, okay, at a population average, half of the adults are the adults in a population. The adults are all are on average capable of growing half a beard, because half of them can and half of them can't. There's no average. So what we're really looking at is different clusters of developers. If you've got a Python developer, or somebody doing things like F#, a lot of your functional stuff, a lot of SQL type stuff, they're very, very well suited for jumping into machine learning. I would say that your folks that are doing a lot more lower level concepts might have a harder time with it, because they're not used to things being expressive and tight. They're used to like dealing with memory locations and doing all this faster stuff. If they're doing a lot of web design, they're used to running in a single thread, and they're also used to fighting with JavaScript, which is still not quite there. So it's a mix. There's no average developer. So a lot of that depends on what strengths you can actually bring to the table. Yeah. But I will suggest this to you: go ahead and grow that half beard.
Well, what I was going to say is there's a lot of libraries out there to help you with this, and it's fascinating. I did the 2 lectures I got to go to at Music City Tech were one was about neural networks and one was about machine learning, and these were concepts that I thought were just not unreachable, but
hard,
way up here. Sorry, I have to like duck to show it, but way up there, and like I was gonna have to work hard to really get my head around the concepts. And I know Chase Oakwine that hopefully we will be able to get on the show again. The recording didn't happen. We had some issues with it, so he was in the panel at Music City Tech, but we don't have the recording of it, so we're trying to get that back up. But he had a really great talk as sort of an introduction to neural networks. And after that, I came out of that talk going, this is something I could do.
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel overwhelmed by it anymore. And then after the machine learning talk I went to, I'm like, I don't feel overwhelmed about this anymore. I feel like this is something that, with a little bit of work, I could figure out and build one. And, that's really awesome. And there are a lot of libraries out there now that someone with, I've got about 3-4 years experience now
in software dev. I don't remember when you started. It seems like
well, see, we've been podcasting for almost 3 years, and I started about 6 months before that.
Yeah, so it's probably 3.5. Since you really started, cranking it up with C#. So.
Yeah, in this time around, and then I had the stuff from high school too.
Yeah, and I find that the older stuff, it's not that it's irrelevant. It's just that so much has changed. That, it's just very, very different. But yeah, I wouldn't say that it's anywhere near impossible. I would also say that if you're interested in learning it, just go do it.
Yeah, I agree with
It's like speaking a language. Learning another language is hard. However, if you're interested enough in doing it, you can probably drive through that.
Yeah.
Do have an end goal in mind when you start, so that, have something that you want to do with it. And then when you get there, have a next thing. That'll make it a lot easier. It's, if you make it goal-oriented, I think just about anything is possible.
Oh, yeah, I agree 100%. I decided to pick up the guitar again because, every few years I decide I want to learn to play guitar. I think I've got the gumption now. It's been about 10 years since I've tried, and I think I've grown enough to be able to stick with it, but I also am going at it with a goal. I really, really want to play about 4 or 5 Tom Petty songs. And nice. So, you can't see them yet. I'm still working on my calluses on my fingers, but,
you'll get there.
I'll get there, and every night I spend about an hour practicing. But that's the thing. Yeah. It's hard, but it's worth it.
Yep.
So that's the questions. If you guys have any more questions, leave us a comment with your questions. We do look at those before doing the episode and putting this together. Shout out to Josh Kilgore, who is watching us right now. Hey, Josh, what's up, man? Josh was at Music City Tech. We talked to him a little bit.
Yep.
So let's see there. That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
So
it still trips me out seeing like the 10 seconds ago video, and it's like I see your hand moving on there, and it doesn't move over here, and it's like watching somebody where the mirror isn't doing the same thing.
Yeah.
It's like horror movie territory.
I got you. Well, I don't even look at that. I'm looking at the stuff, comments and stuff, and who's watching. So,
Yeah.
So guys, speaking of who's watching, who's listening. If you guys haven't already checked it out, check out our most recent episode, CSS Code Smells. Many of us use CSS as part of our jobs, but there's a huge difference between writing CSS that makes a site look good and CSS that is actually maintainable. There are a lot of slimy hacks that everyone had to do as recently as 5 years ago in order to make sites behave correctly across browsers. As a result, developers and development shops have to deal with terrible, unmanageable CSS. In the episode that came out this week, or this past week, we talk about several signs that you're working with bad CSS, along with some approaches to fixing it.
And for our episode next week, we're talking about getting the most from conferences. We were just at Music City Tech 2 weeks ago?
3
weeks. Okay.
I think.
Yeah. Anyway, that doesn't really matter. While we were there, we had a booth. We hosted a panel. Beach spoke. We went to sessions. We did all the things that you do at a conference. It's really easy to get overwhelmed when you go to a tech conference, especially if it's your first one. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of talks. There's a lot of speakers. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of it's like going between classes at college and trying to I got to eat something before this, and I got to run over here, and I got to talk to somebody. I got to go to the bathroom. Where is the bathroom? Hey, how do I get on the wireless? There's all this crap going on, and we spend the first half of the episode going over how to get the most out of attending a conference. And the big takeaways here are setting up a plan before you attend so that you're not just bouncing around. Actually attend sessions, pay attention and take notes. Don't have your head down in your phone while somebody's talking. For one thing, as a speaker, that's real discouraging. Also, make sure to network and socialize. It's not only good for making connections, but you can learn a lot, especially as people are really hyped up about something they just heard about. Finally, review the notes you've taken and follow up with the people you meet. Don't just leave it hanging. And then the second half of the episode is taken from interviews we did with attendees, speakers, and volunteers at Music City Tech. Just to talk about we basically asked the questions, as someone put it, that you would ask a prowler.
You put it that way.
Did I put it that way? It
You
might
were
have
the
been
one-
me.
Yeah, it was you.
It was funny though. I liked it. Basically, we asked them the same questions you'd ask a prowler. Who are you? What are you doing here? What do you hope to leave with? And it's good interview questions. So
It worked, guys. It does, and
Yeah.
I've listened to them already. They turned out really well. Big thanks to the people that jumped on with us, and that's exciting. So we're gonna wrap it up. We've got another really awesome episode to record tonight, and we'll talk to you guys next week.